Welcome to today's landscape tutorial. We're going to be doing an Impressionist painting using oil paint. I'll start by showing the colours from top left: titanium white on the first row, lemon yellow, yellow ochre, cadmium red, crimson alizarin. On the third row, ceruleum blue, cobalt blue, French ultramarine, permanent mauve, and on the last row some sap green. Starting with a mix of white, a little ceruleum blue and a small amount of cobalt blue, we're making a light blue colour for the sky. And to apply this, I'll use a large flat brush. I'm using a mixing medium. You might wish to use an oil or other thinning medium. So we'll start at the top left hand corner and do some small downward strokes and then work our way across. A little more of the blues to darken the colour and a bit more white for volume, and I'm doing some areas a bit lighter than others. I'm only using small strokes at the moment. A bit of white further down to make it lighter behind the trees. A bit more blue down here to darken this area. And now I'm going across to smooth out some of the strokes. To mix a colour for the water, I'm taking some French ultramarine and adding it to the existing blue and white. And this is a darker blue. And I'll start at the bottom left hand corner. Here we're adding a bit more of the cobalt blue and the ultramarine, and the lighter part will be just above. The reflections need to mirror the sky and the trees and the landscape, so I'm going to make it whiter above the reflections of the trees in the water. The mirrored image will appear the opposite way around. What is on the right above will appear on the right below, but the top will be the bottom. This will all become clear as we go along. now making a background colour for the trees. I'm using Cobalt Blue, French Ultramarine, Yellow Ochre, a touch of Crimson, mixing these together, and this will form the base on which to paint the lighter tones. This time I'm applying the paint using a small filbert brush. Here we're making some simple tree shapes, both above the ground and the reflection in the water, and the horizontal line that isn't perfectly straight represents the riverbank. You'll notice that the trees vary in size and shape. I'm making a green for the riverbank using sap green and some yellow ochre. Now darkening this with some French Ultramarine, also using some Cobalt Blue. This will be for the darker reflection in the water. I'm using Crimson for the bush on the right hand side to create some pretty autumnal colour. We'll allow this layer to dry before we add more colour. Starting a light green colour using white, cerulean blue and sap green for the fir tree on the left hand side. I'm doing little diagonal or upward strokes to make the individual branches. some white to lighten the colour and a little more cerulean blue. A slightly darker tone for the water, so I'm using some sap green and cobalt blue mixed in. A new shade of green using sap green, cobalt blue and cerulean blue for the darker areas of shadow in the water. Now some cerulean blue, some white and some lemon yellow and a touch of sap green, and this is for a new tree on the right hand side. Using a similar technique, using the filbert brush sideways on and creating some upward strokes. I'll leave some areas to be darker. For the darkest parts of the tree, I'm adding some cobalt blue and French ultramarine and some additional sap green, and this will go in the centre and in between some of the lighter areas. Adding some lemon yellow for a different shade of green, and this is going above the crimson bush in the foreground. Now repeating the colour in the water and adding some darker blues for the darker shadow on the left of this tree. The lighter tones to match the lighter colour on the right hand side. this next tree, I'm going back to using autumnal colours, and I'm mixing yellow ochre, cadmium red and permanent mauve. The majority of the colour will be yellow ochre. Some more of the reddy tones here. Now doing the reflection in the water to match the tree above. And I'll also add a little bit of green. To fill in some colour for the bank, I'm adding a colour for grasses using lemon yellow, cadmium red, white and a touch of the light green mix. And this is part of the foreground in front of the trees. I want to add some vibrant colour, so I'm taking some permanent mauve, some white and some crimson, and I'm going to put it in front of this fir tree. Now I'm picking up some French Ultramarine and white, and I'm dabbing this in front of the permanent mauve colour. I'm doing a similar thing on the opposite side, this time using Coeruleum blue and white. I'm going to use various lemon and green tones using lemon yellow and white, and this is to indicate the undulations of the bank next to the river as it leans down to the water. For the dark edge between the land and the water, I'm using a mix of French Ultramarine and permanent mauve. And I'm stroking this across and blending it with the colour in the water. Now it's time to add a little more detail to the bushes, including extra shading, some highlights, and a few leaves. for the water's edge, and to indicate movement on the water, I'm going to use white and use sideways strokes. I'll also soften the image that's in the water using a dry brush. For the final part of the painting, I'm going to draw some trees, and these will be taller than the others, without much foliage. So I'll start by using a yellowy brown mix. The brown is made up of red, blue and yellow, or you can use red and green as an example. some final touches to the trees before adding the ripples to the water. And here it is, the final painting. I hope that you've enjoyed today's painting tutorial and will join me next time. Thank you for your support.